How often we misunderstand each other. This is on many levels. Very often, in fact, I say absolutely all of the time, when you as a person, as a husband, as a wife, as a friend to another, feel anger, judgment, some selfish pride, but the anger rises up, and you feel judgment towards another person, please let me explain to you that that's an ego defense mechanism. It's an interesting thing. We all do this. Here's the point. When we criticize another person with the least amount of anger, judgment, and there is a difference between anger and a assertiveness. They seem similar. They even look the same. But anger and assertiveness are different. We will talk about that another time. But when you as a human being, I and others, rise up in anger and judge another, we are actually criticizing the gift or strength in that person to cover up that very failing in ourselves. It will be so subtle that we don't notice it. It's just as easy as breathing. The first time this became truly clear to me was in Dallas, Texas. I was at a drug program where I was teaching men and women who were in drug recovery. It had happened to have been a drug program that a board in Dallas asked me to build an outpatient clinic, and it grew from then on. And I was teaching these folks who were in recovery, and this concept came to me very clearly. There was this one mother, this young lady, holding an infant in her arms, and while I was teaching the 10 people, men and women, she was preoccupied with her child. She was listening, but showing care and concern for that child. When we asked the question in the class, what is the one thing that life has seemed to come at you negatively? What's the one thing in your life that it seems like everyone got together somehow and decided that they were going to criticize you? Is it for being selfish, thinking only of yourself, being lazy, or whatever the criticism may be? The strange phenomenon, I would say to the people, have you ever gotten the feeling, why is it that I always get criticized this one way? Well, she explained that she always seemed to feel and be told that she cared about no one but herself. However, I pointed out that of all the 10 of us in the room, through the whole class, she was demonstrating care not for herself, but for another human being, more than the rest of us. And then we went around the room to each of the 10. And in every case, there was a negative script that had been told to each of these folks throughout their lives, starting when they were young. Mine was, nothing good could come out of my mouth. I myself grew up with a severe stutter. Occasionally I will stutter now. But it was a severe stutter, and it seemed like in school, teachers, my family, the message was, basically that nothing good could come out of my mouth. Time went on and someone helped me, and it became clear that my greatest strength and gift is what comes out of my mouth. And I became a therapist, psychological therapist, for many years. Plus I was a singer, sang at many churches and many places. And so it turned out the very thing I doubted, that nothing good could come out of my mouth, and I felt it so deeply that I would stutter and have poor self-esteem on this topic, became my greatest gift. Well, it was the same with this young lady holding her child in the drug alcohol class that I was teaching. This was back in 1992, just around the corner from where Kennedy got shot in Dallas. So here is a phenomenon, and I have seen it case to case, from person to person in my office counseling. It is a strange phenomenon. Just as sure as there's gravity and you throw a rock up in the air, no matter how hard you throw it and as high as it goes, it's always going to come back down to earth. There are many principles about life. They are consistent in our relationships, and this is one of them. It may be towards your son, towards your daughter, your husband, your wife. In these videos, we're going to be talking a lot about many dynamics and specifics as to what I'm talking about. But there are times when you become irritable, frustrated, what I call angry judgment. And the moment you feel that, without realizing it, it happens to us humans just as easy as breathing. As soon as you rise up in anger and you criticize, not only is your criticism of that human being, of that family member, not correct, but it is the opposite of truth. It is an ego defense mechanism to cover up something of that very thing you're criticizing in the other that exists in you. And what results is when we criticize with that instant, impatient, frustration, judgment, we are looking down upon that person. And our defense mechanism is we fear seeing that very phenomenon, that very failing in ourselves. But I'm going to end with this. It's even further. We criticize the very strength and gift in that person to cover up the very criticism and failing in ourselves. Please listen to these videos. They're going to be covering many principles that are true to family, life, and relationships.